Raiders, Chiefs.
Oh, come on back over, Isaiah.
Tyreek Hill? No, it's Pacheco.
Yeah. And now he's going to fake it to Mahomes. Pacheco trying to find it. He does. Touchdown. Found the end zone on the fake reverse.
And using it, and boy, was that a great design play. Pacheco showing off the little dance recital move.
Look at this. Ball's on the ground. Ball's on the ground. It's picked up by the Raiders. And they have a touchdown with Nichols. Mahomes throws, and he's picked off. And this one's going back for a touchdown. 2 snaps, 2 defensive touchdowns, and it's Jack Jones who had a pick 6 last week.
Antonio Pierce, the head coach, coached this guy in high school, at Long Beach Poly, and at Arizona State. And boy, what a great decision to bring him in.
You're not kidding. 2 touchdowns in 7 seconds.
Wow.
The rocket-armed holder and punter puts it down, and that kick, oh, it's no good. He missed his first of the season last week at New England. Now he's missed this one. Carlson's kick is good, and the Raiders go up 13. Here is this critical 4th and goal. To the end zone, and no flag. Hobbs on the coverage of Rice.
Underneath.
Got time in the pocket for once, and he's got a man open at the 35. Richie James racing with it inside the 10.
You got 2 downs, you don't have to. There's nothing there in the end zone.
3rd and goal. Pressure from behind. Somehow got away to the end zone, and it's caught for the touchdown. Justin Watson.
This should have been a 3-man rush, and you're about to get a sack right there, and he gets out and then fires that ball. But that's all because Watson kept moving. That was not his initial route. He never stopped.
Here's a 2nd and 4, and the Raiders have a new set of downs and a whole lot more as White rips up the big run and almost lost the football. Back to White. He's got another big gap. He's bouncing around to the 11-yard line.
They've worn him down, Jim.
This is going to be a win for Aiden O'Connell and this Raiders team.
All you can do is just move on, learn from your mistakes, get better. I still believe that we can go do what we want to do. It's just how can we correct it as quickly as possible. We're at 2 games left that are guaranteed, and then you talk about the playoffs. And so all you can do is move on to that next day, get better then, and try to be better the next time we step on the field.
Listen, they played a better game than what we did today. In particular, our offense. We struggled. That's my responsibility to make sure I'm putting the guys in the right position to make plays. And it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to. So, again, we're on a short week here, so we're going to get everybody back in, give them a day off and get everybody back in and get ready for Cincinnati. But I take full responsibility for that, for the way we played offensively there and then defensively. I mean, we did some really good things. So. We've just got to straighten out some things on the offensive side, and we'll be all right. So, anyways, with that, time's yours.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to the Border Patrol for this Tuesday morning, the day after Christmas, December 26th, Boxing Day, they call it in some parts of the world. My name is Nate Bukaty. I am joined in studio by our esteemed guest co-host today, a man who's been a part of the family here at the Border Patrol for decades now. Matt Besler, good morning, Matt. How are you?
Good morning, Nate. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. And we've got the one and only Jake Pounders, the Iceman, Jake Gutierrez.
Morning, boys.
On the show as well.
So we'll spend the next 4 hours breaking down today's EPL games.
EPL games, big slate.
Yeah,
big slate.
Nottingham and Newcastle kicking off at 6:30.
Yeah,
right?
we'll have. I'm assuming you'll get that up on the video board for us here at some point.
Right. Nothing else to
this
talk
morning.
about, really, right?
No, pretty boring weekend. Not many talking points out of the Chiefs game, so I think we just move on and focus on the Bengals. Right, coming up next. Monologue time. I don't usually do a big long monologue, especially when I have a guest host in studio. But Matt, you might want to sit back and relax for the next 15 minutes or so because I'm gonna get some things off my chest. Here, I have never really wanted to be the cliche sports talk guy who comes on and trashes people who are trying their best at something that I'm not capable of even doing myself. That's never the part of this job that I'm like, oh man, can't wait to do that. I don't really plan to do that today. At the same time, part of this job requires stating your opinion and telling you like you see it. And I have enough gray hair on my head these days to feel like I have some perspective on some things in terms of I've seen winning teams in this town, I've seen losing teams in this town, and I've seen just about everything in between. And what I'm seeing right now from the Kansas City Chiefs does not look like a championship caliber winning team. Does that mean they can't do it? You just heard the clip from Patrick Mahomes in the intro that Jake put together where he says, I still believe we can do what we want to do. I think it would be a little foolish for me to say that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones can't do it. That there's no way that they could put it together. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say, oh, there's no way the Chiefs can do it. But I will say now, I've seen enough to say that I'll be pleasantly surprised by anything this team does in the postseason. Pleasantly surprised by anything this team does in the postseason. They win a game? Nice. I won't expect them to win the next one. They win that one, I'll be even a little more surprised. I won't be stunned. I won't say, oh my God, I didn't think there was any chance in the world they could do it. But I will be surprised because this does not look like a winning team right now. And it's headed in the wrong direction. When we started the month of December, we had Anthony Sherman and Garrick Dieter in here, and I talked to them about my thoughts on December football. I've listened to enough seasoned veteran front office people, coaches, players talk about how December is kind of what separates the men from the boys, so to speak. You spend this whole season kind of positioning to see who we think are the good teams, who we think are the mediocre teams. And then in December, when the weather sucks and everybody's tired and beat up and you got to knuckle down sometimes and win games ugly, whatever it is, the winning teams separate themselves. And Andy Reid has been dynamite in the month of December as a head coach in his career. 75-32, Andy Reid in the month of December. Hasn't lost 3 games in December since his first year in Kansas City. Has never lost 4 games in December in his career. This team is not playing December football the way they have under Andy Reid during our time here. We're used to seeing them sort out their problems and then kick it in to high gear and separate from the other teams at this time. The opposite just happened this weekend, right? We thought they were going to pick up a game on at least Baltimore or Miami because those teams both had tough games, but instead those teams separated. And the Chiefs did the opposite. And the problems that we've been talking about from week 1 for this team are not getting sorted out. They're getting worse. And I never played football at a tackle football level past 8th grade, and I know that we don't have the right to have certain opinions on things like that, according to Mr. Pickens in Pittsburgh or wherever else. So I'll just quote the people who have played the game on things that we've seen. Justin Watson says still, when asked yesterday by Jesse Newell to sum up the biggest problem this offense has: lack of discipline. Have we not been talking about that for a while now? Okay, like it is 2 weeks ago, we thought it hit the crescendo when Patrick Mahomes went off on the refs, and we spent a whole week trying to analyze whether or not that was going to be a galvanizing point for the team, or was that a sign of a team that is petulant and a little bratty and wanting to find excuses for the fact that they don't have answers in their own building for their problems. And so far, the next couple of weeks, yeah, they won in New England, but still had some issues in that game. And then this one, make it seem like the latter, right? And like the frustration is only building and the lack of discipline is only getting worse. This team has been penalized on offense more than any other team in the NFL. And I'm quoting from Jesse Newell's piece that he wrote with that quote from Justin Watson. 461 yards worth of offensive penalties going into yesterday before they had another offsides penalty. Another one. Like another one. After the biggest temper tantrum that we've ever seen from this team, they had another one. More drops. More guys breaking off routes where Patrick Mahomes thinks the guy is going to take a couple more steps. More Mahomes having to chew out his team on the sideline. Mahomes making mistakes that you don't normally see from him. MVS quitting on a route while Mahomes is scrambling for his life, which should have been another pick at the end of the game. And I'm quoting Tony Romo there because I'm not a former player. I don't know what it's like to be a wide receiver at the NFL level. But Tony Romo said MVS quit on that route. And that's sure what it looked like to us watching it as well. And Mahomes should have had another pick there that ended the game, but luckily it got overturned on replay. But that stuff is still all happening. And Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, the ultimate scapegoats so far for the offense, you can't blame them this time. And by the way, they deserve plenty of blame. It's not like, oh, okay, well, they weren't out there to screw up this time, so all the stuff they did this year doesn't count. They deserve the criticism that came their way for whatever production they've had or haven't had. But it's obvious also it isn't just them. They're not the only problem. And maybe there's a reason they've been continuing to get opportunities because other guys aren't stepping up. You've got Travis Kelce slamming a helmet down on the sideline. We've seen him get mad and slam his helmet before, but this time Andy Reid goes in like almost like a shot blocker trying to swat away the helmet when the staff member's trying to return it to Kelce. He's in Kelce's face. Like it is Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce don't understand what's happening right now because they have always been elite as an offense since the two of them got together their first year. They have never had a bad offense. They've never struggled like this. They can't figure out what's happening right now, and they almost seem like kids who just like for the first time something's not going their way, and they're just like they just freak out. And I don't really have a problem with the fact that those two guys are throwing fits because they have been elite their whole career, and they're being let down by a bunch of guys around them. The truth is, though, they're also not playing great, right? I will quote again two former NFL quarterbacks, Phil Simms and Boomer Esiason, after the game. They said Patrick Mahomes had a bad game. They said Patrick Mahomes did not see the field well. That was the quote they both used in the postgame when they talked about it. And I thought, those are two guys who have obviously played at the highest level in the NFL, played in the Super Bowl. One of them won a Super Bowl. Using that phrase, didn't see the field well. Open receivers that he's not seeing. Those guys, I'm sure, it just sounded like, oh, I remember having games like that where I just didn't see the field well. By the way, part of the reason he probably didn't see the field well is because he was running for his life as soon as he dropped back to pass. I mean, the first two drives of the game for the Chiefs, it was obvious, oh, this offensive line is getting dominated by the Raiders. And Mahomes knew that from the first series on. And so, yeah, that might have been a big part of the reason he wasn't seeing the field well. But he also he didn't have a great game. He still tried to put the team on his back and run to a win. And how many hits did Mahomes take yesterday that let you know that he knew how big this game was, because the season seems to be unraveling, and he's trying to do whatever he can to hold it together. He wasn't running out of bounds yesterday. He was putting his shoulder down and getting hit by 3-4 guys time after time, and it seemed to be the only good offense the Chiefs had was when Mahomes just scrambled and ran for first downs. But he didn't have a great game. He obviously had the terrible the game was decided in 13 seconds, right? The game, you don't give up 2 defensive scores and win NFL games. Like, that doesn't happen, let alone doing it in 13 seconds. That's when the game was decided, and Mahomes had a hand in both of those. So you can't just, like, say, well, it's all everybody else. But Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL, and his team is continually letting him down. That's a fact. This team has continuously let him down. He makes mistakes, yes. Not as many as everybody else on the offense. I mean, there is a lack of discipline. And we have said for weeks and weeks now that this team seems to miss Eric Berry. Again, quoting players. I said Berry again, didn't I? Jeez. Eric Bieniemy. They miss Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, quoting former players that come on our show who said, yeah, he was the guy that would jump your ass if you didn't finish a play. MVS. I can't imagine what Bieniemy would have said to MVS after that play if he saw it the same way Tony Romo did, which was that he gave up on the play while Mahomes was still trying to keep the play alive. What would Eric Bieniemy say if they got another offsides penalty? You know, the guy that would jump your butt, and now Andy Reid's having to try to take that role over, getting in Travis Kelce's face on the sideline. And by the way, Justin Watson is one of the few guys I feel like is out there trying to do everything he can. And he's not perfect. He drops passes and all those things, but he seems like he's out there. I don't remember massive, mental mistakes from him or lack of effort, in situations. He says their biggest problem is lack of discipline. That's somebody on the team. Tell me there wouldn't be more discipline if there wasn't more accountability with somebody like Eric Bieniemy here. And it's been told to us, and that game looked more evident that this team misses Eric Bieniemy than any game that I can think of so far this year. That was a drunk football game. There were so many stupid things happening in that game. I mean, two defensive turnovers in 13 seconds, missed field goals, the most incredible fake punt, just phenomenal throw and catch of all the things that you could imagine in the game. The Raiders won a football game at Arrowhead Stadium in which they did not complete a forward pass from the first quarter on, end of the first quarter on. They didn't complete a pass. I had to read that twice in Sam McDowell's column. Is that right? They didn't complete a forward pass in the second quarter, the third quarter, or the fourth quarter? No. And they won a game at Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, that was the game we just watched yesterday. The defense, the only time they failed was when the game was on the line. Now, there's a part of me that says that might be a little indicative, again, of whether you're a winning team or not. But I'm not going to hang anything on the defense. They were tired. They were exhausted. They were on the field the whole game because the Chiefs couldn't put drives together. They kept giving the ball back to the Chiefs' offense, and the Chiefs' offense couldn't do anything with it. It was an incredibly frustrating game to watch as a Chiefs fan. Like, incredibly frustrating. We have been so spoiled by how fun this team is to watch. Ever since really Andy Reid got here, but especially since Mahomes got here, the entertainment value is just off the charts. It's It's one of the most maddening things about why I can't get my kids to sit down and watch an entire game with me unless I force them to. Don't you guys realize look at this. Look at this man. Look at this team. Look how fun they are to watch. And there's been this belief, they're going to come back in the fourth quarter. I mean, I was at that game against the Ravens when Patrick Mahomes on fourth down ran all over the field and threw it all the way down the field to Tyreek Hill, and they come back and they win the game in overtime and all. Like, that's what we've come to expect. And all of a sudden this year, no fourth quarter comebacks. None. And you just don't. I still was optimistic they could come back and win the game in the first half when they were down after those 2 touchdowns, because I just don't think the Raiders are that good. I don't think the Raiders' offense is anything, and they could score a couple touchdowns. And it wasn't until the second half when the offense continued to look as bad as it did in the first half that I started to go, oh, maybe I'm not so confident that they're going to come back and win this game. So, look, we have become incredibly spoiled in this town. That is the fact. This is still a playoff football team. And it's still a team, I'm sure, that other teams will go, oh, man, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are coming to town. This is going to be a tough game. But I also know this. Teams don't fear the Kansas City Chiefs the way they have over the past several years. They don't. That invincibility, that, oh, my gosh, we can't let Patrick Mahomes get the ball back. You can tell by the way these other teams are approaching the Chiefs these days, they're not that scared of them anymore. They see that they can be beaten. They see that they are not this incredible, unstoppable juggernaut on offense that no lead is too safe against. And when you lose that mystique, I think you lose something as well. So I don't want to come on here and trash guys. I don't want to come on here and bury the Chiefs to say they got no shot. But I also have to say what I see and what other NFL players, some in the locker room, some outside of the locker room, say they see. An undisciplined team that doesn't seem to be getting their discipline in order or showing any signs of it whatsoever. A team that doesn't have any explosive playmakers. I think they completed 3 passes all game that traveled 10 yards downfield or more. The Chiefs? So a team that lacks explosiveness, a team that has issues at tackle, a team that has discipline problems that have not gotten any better through the course of the year. A team that's got a really good defense, but not a dominant defense, not one that creates a lot of turnovers, a really good defense, the best defense they've had since Patrick Mahomes was here. That's what I see. So my expectations are different now. I mean, much of the season, we still kept saying, yeah, but who do you look when you look at the AFC? Who do you think's better? Well, the way things are trending right now, well, clearly the Ravens look a lot better. A lot better. We watched that game last night. That was a prove-it game. They went on the road. They look a lot better. The Chiefs beat the Dolphins on a neutral site. Does anybody want to run that back right now? I mean, maybe they can get after Tua, and Tua has a bad game, and the Chiefs could win it. But do you like the Chiefs' offense matching up against the Cleveland Browns right now? If Patrick Mahomes was running for his life last night, what's that going to be like? All of a sudden, the expectations are a little different. So we can unpack all of it. We've got Matt Besler here in studio. We're going to get his thoughts on this. He's going to have a lot of perspective on being on winning teams and then trying to recreate the magic from those winning teams. I'm going to ask Matt about that because I think you can see right now the frustration. Kelsey slamming his helmet down, Andy Reid trying to swat the helmet away from the trainer, all that stuff. It's built up on this team, and they got 2 weeks left in the regular season to try to correct it, and then whatever happens in the playoffs. We'll take a break. Back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB and streaming live everywhere.
cameras caught you and Travis with a couple of instances. Just wondering what your perspective was.
Yeah, listen, I mean, he went back in and did a nice job. So things happen. Emotional game. I mean, you know, Trav's emotional, and sometimes my red hair gets to me a little bit, and so but it all works out.
That was Big Red talking about the, I don't know what you call it, altercation, whatever. I mean, the little exchange that he and Travis Kelce had during the game yesterday. Lot to unpack as the Chiefs lose at home to the Raiders 20-14 in a game in which the Chiefs outgained the Raiders 308 yards to 205. The Raiders threw for 48 yards and won at Arrowhead. We've got Matt Besler as my co-host today. First of all, it's awesome having you, dude. Thanks for being here. How was your Christmas?
It was good. Lots of family time.
Yep.
We were here in town in Kansas City, and we focused on the kids a lot. My kids are all at those magical Santa ages.
Yep.
So it was a pretty traditional Christmas with kids.
What was the one present one of your kids got that after 5 hours of listening to them play with it, you thought, we've made a massive mistake?
That's an easy answer. We got my oldest daughter, who is 7, we got her electronic keyboard.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that thing got plugged in right away. And it's funny because we were joking on the commercial break that I chose to go up to her room after the Chiefs game and listen to that keyboard for hours, and that gave me less of a headache than watching the Chiefs play.
So it was a frustrating game to watch. It was a painful game to watch. It was a lot of things. You've heard my rant. I'll give the floor to you. What were your biggest takeaways from this game yesterday?
Yeah, so I mean, I think first of all, you did a great job. You did a great job, and you know, I'm coming in, co-hosting with you, filling in for Steven, who's gone, and hopefully Steven's having a great time on some of his days off. But I was thinking, you know, what would Steven do right now in this chair? And certainly Steven is one of the best at bringing the fire and the passion and the emotion here in Kansas City, and he does a terrific job. But I do think, Nate, you nailed a lot of things right on the head, and you did a really good job. So if the listeners missed your monologue to open the show, I would highly encourage them to go back and listen to that. But there's a couple things that you brought up that I want to touch on again. And, you know, I think the first thing you said was Andy Reid's record in December, which is incredible, his record in December. But let's talk about Patrick Mahomes' record in December. He just lost his 17-0 streak against divisional opponents in the month of November and December. 17-0 for Mahomes when playing divisional opponents. Lost that record. We've lost 3 straight at Arrowhead.
Crazy.
3 straight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Arrowhead in December, November, December. You talked about it in your monologue. Supposed to be winning months of football where teams come together and prove their worth. Something the Chiefs have done terrifically over the last couple years. And we give them credit for doing that. And they've built up equity for us to trust them in doing that. But we're talking about Arrowhead Stadium. Teams coming in to Arrowhead Stadium in November and December and beating the Chiefs. You talked about Mahomes and Kelce's play. Right? They're the clear leaders of the team. Let's talk about Kelce real quick. His offensive penalties this year. How many offensive PIs has he had this year? Right?
It's been a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's more focus on him from everybody because of all the stuff going on in his life, and the referees are watching him closely and they want to try and call things more tightly. But I know this. I think Kelce is the best tight end in football, if not the greatest tight end ever. And I think what he does on the field, I don't know if anybody else has ever done that before. But he's lost a step.
Sure.
Right?
I mean,
this
how
year.
could he not?
And
how could he not? I mean, he's 34 years old.
Yeah, but he's on the field. He's lost a little bit, and that's okay to me. I still think he can be one of the best tight ends in the league. And I'm not expecting him to be as explosive as he was. And a lot of the stuff that he's showing on the field, that happens. And I accept that. But what I don't accept is some of the other stuff that's happening. If you lose a step, okay, you lost a step. Maybe you can't make as many great plays as you did before, but don't let all the other stuff affect you. I mean, there's 4 or 5 negative things that are happening in the games now that we're not only talking about the play, we're talking about the off the play stuff, the penalties, the stuff that's happening on the sidelines, the distractions, the helmets. And to me, those are all just negative things that we're spending time focusing on. There's a point that I really want to talk to you, and I'll throw it back to you about this, is that we talked about the receivers. We've been talking about receivers all season long, and I'm curious to get your take on this. I think that, Mahomes, what makes Mahomes so great is his vision and his ability to throw the ball down the field, his arm strength, right? And I think one of those intangibles that Mahomes has that I don't think I've ever seen before is his ability to extend a play a half second longer or a second longer than 99.9% of the quarterbacks would not be able to do. So an example is that if he's being rushed, he's able to take that one step forward and hold on to the ball just a little bit longer than everybody else, because he can move his body, he can change his arm angle, he can hold on. And what that does, his ability to extend that play a second longer, a half second, that allows people to get open.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the NFL, a half second, a second, that's a big freaking deal. If you're a defensive back and you're said, hey, I've got to guard this guy for 3 seconds, okay, it's pretty tough. But if you say I've got to guard this guy for 5 seconds on an NFL field in open space against some of the best athletes in the world, that's a hard thing to do. So I think what we've seen Mahomes in years past and why he's been so great is because he can extend those plays and he can hold on to the ball and give his receivers that half second or 2 seconds of extra time to get open. And when he does that and he launches the ball 30 yards down the field, there's a guy wide open because he's allowed him to get open. And right now, we're not seeing that. Our receivers aren't getting open. And I don't know if it's they don't have the ability to, or they're not on the same page. But part of your job as a receiver is to get open. And when your quarterback is giving you an extra second of time, or 2 seconds, or 3 seconds, to get open, and you're not doing it, then that's a problem. And maybe it's man-to-man. If the defensive play is playing man, then the receivers have a problem of getting open against their man. If the teams are playing zone and they're still not getting open, then they've got an issue because they're not reading the defenses correctly, and they've got an issue, and they've got to go watch film, and they've got to figure out how do they get open in a zone. That's their job. And so I don't know. I'd love to get your perspective on that, because right now they are not getting open, and it's a huge issue because every time Mahomes is trying to extend the play, he's basically throwing balls into spaces that he shouldn't be throwing them to. You can clearly tell that on his face. Like, there's balls where he does not want to throw it, and he's got to throw it. And he's throwing it, and he's saying, I'm going to give my guy a chance to make a play. And they're not making the plays.
They almost never do.
And that's the other thing. Like, the only way that the Chiefs right now are getting big gains is if a guy's wide open, which barely happens. And so the 4th and goal that he threw up to Rashid Rice, I want to see Rashid Rice go up and make a play.
Compete for the ball.
And Rice he's done well. I think he's progressed and he's taken some big steps. But clearly that 4th and goal play, it's a big play in the game. Mahomes, there's 3 guys lined up on the right side, and he either checks or he calls out the play. He sees the coverage that he wants because he's talking to the guys because there's 10 seconds left on the play call. And he's got the look that he wants. He's got the coverage that he wants. He's got Rashid Rice one-on-one with 20 yards of space, and he throws the ball up into the corner, and you got to go make a play.
Yeah, like he didn't even it just fell harmlessly.
He didn't even
ground.
jump.
Yeah,
it's an easy play.
It didn't
for the
seem like he was
defense
committed to the route either. I mean, I don't know what the route was supposed to be there. You assume by where the ball landed that he was supposed to get to the sideline, get to like corner route basically.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Yeah.
I mean, have you guys broken down any of that stuff? I know we got Bo Richter coming in studio for the receiver stuff.
Yeah,
but
I should have laid out. That's good. Thank you for doing that, by the way. I lay out the menu here. We will talk with a couple former players. Joe Valerio will be on at 7:30, and Mark Bo Richter will be in studio at 8 o'clock. So we'll talk about those guys. And then Jeff Chidilla, who's going to tap dance all over the Chiefs' grave when he comes in here at 9 o'clock. Most likely. We'll see. So, yeah, we'll talk to those guys. No, Matt, to answer your question, look, we have the wide receiver, and I'm not suggesting that from you. I'm just saying if you're asking, that's a dead horse that we have been beating for a month now, the problems at wide receiver. But your point, I think that one of the things that yesterday does is it isn't just two guys. It isn't just Kadarius Toney. It isn't just Sky Moore. That nobody can blame them for what happened yesterday. Those issues at wide receiver were still happening. We still had a guy line up off sides. We still had drop passes. We still had guys not getting open. And we still had guys not running the route that Mahomes thought they were going to run. Whether that's their fault or Mahomes' fault, we know that none of us are in the huddle. We don't know for sure. But that's a problem. That's a recurring problem on the team. And so I think what you just laid out for us, intentionally or not, is these guys as a group are not really good at any of it. They don't beat man-to-man coverage. They don't get past. They don't threaten teams down the field. Right? Teams aren't just sitting back in that too-deep zone because they're worried about getting burned deep on each side of the field like they used to be when Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson and all those guys were on the field. They're not scared of anybody beating them deep now, so they don't get deep. They don't beat man coverage. They don't seem to read zone defenses very well in terms of knowing where the pockets are. They're not going to the places where Mahomes expects them to go to. So either against man or zone, they don't seem to know how to get open, whether it's the physical ability or the mental part of it, the tactical part of it. And they don't catch contested passes. They don't make tough catches. There are some guys like I remember that was the big argument between guys like Dwayne Bowe that Gunther Cunningham wanted. I think if I remember, it was Herm Edwards wanted versus the guys that Dick Vermeil wanted. I remember talking to Dick Vermeil about it because people always want the big. People always want the big wide receiver that can make tough contested catches in a crowd. Well, the reason those guys can make those is because they're always in a crowd. I'd rather have the guys that get open. He would rather have Tyreek Hill getting separation and making catches. But at least you could say about those other guys, hey, you can throw it up to them and they might go up and get it. You see enough other wide receivers in the league. It's like, hey, man, he's covered, but he's a big guy. He can jump. He goes and competes for the ball. I put it up there. He's got a chance of catching it or getting a pass interference. You don't feel like they're going to do that either. So they don't catch it in a crowd, but they don't get open. And they don't seem to lack discipline. And then the last part you made, I thought it was really hammered home by watching that Ravens game last night. Troy Aikman kept talking about the wide receivers for the Ravens and how much this year their offense has been about when Lamar Jackson gets off script and scrambles around to buy time. I think the phrase that Aikman kept using was the wide receivers give him somewhere to go with the football. That was the way he phrased it. It actually sounds to me like, as a soccer player, when I would see Matt Besler back there with the ball and kind of put his hands out like, is anybody going to show for the ball? Is anybody going to make themselves available? Give me somewhere to go with the soccer ball. And in football, once it goes off script, you're not running your pass route anymore. You're giving the quarterback somewhere to go with the football. And, man, the Chiefs used to be great at that when Mahomes would scramble around. And now it's like he scrambles around and nobody's available for the football. If they are, he's not seeing them. And so it's like...
Yeah, so, okay, that's a great point. That's a great point. But, so is that something that you practice? Or is that something that you're born with? Or that you develop over time? Or you get comfortable with? And I think it's probably a combination of both. But I can tell you this. They're not practicing that stuff because they don't have time to practice that stuff because they're having to spend their time practicing on lining up on sides and figuring out the right play call or where to be when it is on script. So they don't have time to practice some of the off-script stuff that maybe they could have practiced previously because they're having to worry about all the discipline stuff.
It's a problem. We'll take a break. We've got more with Matt Besler here in studio. This is the Border Patrol on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Well, I'll say this for the Chiefs. Right now, when they lose, they don't lose boring. In a game in which their opponent did not complete a forward pass after the first quarter, that was still somehow a game that had 1,000 talking points, and we're sitting here in the commercial break starting to, second-guess some of the decision-making made in the game, and it almost seems irrelevant because it does seem like the big picture stuff matters so much more than whether or not they decided to go for it on this down or run a trick play on this play. The big stuff, this lack of discipline, the cultural problems that seem to be bubbling to the surface right now seem to matter a lot more to me than getting into the minutia. But what the hell, let's get into the minutia for a second. Because the game was lost on those two turnovers. And we just talked in the break, Jake. I was saying, first thing I thought of when Pacheco was trying to hand the ball off to Mahomes, and yes, I'm saying that order correctly, Pacheco trying to hand the ball to Mahomes, I can hear right away, Andy Reid trying to get too cute. He does this. And I was thinking, yeah, but that's the only way they seem to be able to move the ball is by getting cute right now. They can't just line up and beat people, so they're trying to get cute. And it worked last drive. They're trying it again. But, Jake, you made a point why you didn't like that play call because of where it was on the field.
You're in your own territory, and you do have the best quarterback in the league. Look, the difference between this offense and prior Mahomes offense is they don't ever feel like they're in rhythm.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. It's very rare.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's that's why when Kelsey was going a little bit, they started to get a rhythm, Romo was talking about the Kelsey lean, but it's they're forcing it. It's not like they're not just going out there and doing it. It's they're trying to force a rhythm. And it's also when he's running around for his life, it's maybe don't have him be in the shotgun or don't have him drop. I mean, work about getting the ball out faster, and I get it. Guys have to be open. And Kurt Warner had some interesting tweets late last night. He first tweeted, "Is there really no one open per Patrick in this game? This is hard to watch him running around on every play. I can't wait to watch the film and verify this." So then he went back and watched the film 10 hours later, and he tweeted this about 6 hours ago. "Watch the Chiefs O. Could have been worst overall game by this O in Mahomes' era. First, credit the Raiders D," which I do agree. The Raiders defense is damn good. So
they got a good pass rush. Yeah.
There's guys on the other side of the ball who are doing their jobs, right? So first, credit Raiders D, who outcoached and outplayed KC. Second, KC was bad everywhere. PM2 missed reads and throws. Concepts were confusing. Got manhandled up front, etc. It's getting late, people. So to me, that says a lot of things with the questions that Matt was asking you is, he's running around because he doesn't trust guys. He's not seeing things. And look, the guy has been just all world his career, pretty much since he stepped on the field.
Yeah.
Right? And now he's struggling. But also there's 5 years of film out on him. We saw things like in the Green Bay game where the D-back read something with him slapping on his leg. Mm-hmm. People are starting to catch up a little bit. And now this is where he has to make the adjustment. It's like a good hitter in baseball. Pitchers eventually make adjustments to those hitters. Defenses all across the league are catching up to offenses all across the league.
Yeah, that is a fair point. That's happening all over the league. At the same time, you mentioned getting the ball out quickly. It's a lot harder to do when the other team is not scared of you getting past them at all.
Yeah.
They get up on you. They play press coverage. They are trying to take away all the short stuff. And as much as we loved Rashee Rice this year, how many times do they actually throw the ball down the field to him? Everything is, you can only throw so many balls down the line of scrimmage and have everybody block for you before they start jumping all those routes. And they're up in your face see if you can get past us. See if anybody on this team can get past us and actually catch the ball. And MVS was supposed to be that guy. Have they taken a deep shot to him since he dropped that ball in Green Bay?
Can't recall. I don't remember him getting one.
I mean, it is what Kurt Warner said is the same thing that Boomer Esiason and Phil Simms said after the game. They made it a point to say he did not see the field well in this game. Again, big reason for that, running for his life for a lot of it. But it's not you can't take it all off. It's not everybody else. Mahomes bears responsibility. Of course, he's the quarterback. But
he's lacking confidence, man. And the confidence is such a giant thing.
And rhythm is yes. Dude, it's gotten worse. Like, they weren't this bad just a few weeks ago, right?
Right. No, and it's continued to get worse. His confidence has gone down. The team's confidence has gone down. And look, the shine's off the Chiefs this year.
Yeah.
The shine's off. Like, it's like the bully who's just beating the crap out of everybody. And then finally someone steps up and just socks the bully in the face.
After Mike Tyson went down to Buster Douglas, there were fighters lining up to fight Mike Tyson when they had all lost the fight before they ever got in the ring with him in the past.
And that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
The bully just got hit right in the face. Now, look, here's what I think, in terms of where the Chiefs sit. What quarterback – look, we can't – Jackson's playing at an MVP level. He may be – that defense in Jackson, they're awesome in Baltimore right now. But you trust them that much in the playoffs? Like, what quarterback is out there that you trust in the playoffs right now?
Here's the thing. My dad asked me last night, who's the best quarterback in the NFL? And I said, Mahomes. Still?
Because of the body of work.
Well, who would you take? If you were going to do a draft right now, who would you take with your number 1 overall pick? You would take Patrick Mahomes. Everybody would still take Patrick Mahomes. And anybody that tells you they would take anybody else is just trying to get clicks is a liar. But
he's the most proven guy. Why would you not take the most proven guy?
Now, the fascinating question is, who would you take second?
Right, because who's proven himself?
We can have a long right. Josh Allen hasn't made it to a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson hasn't made it to a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow can't stay healthy.
And on the other side, like, everybody was loving Purdy. All of it, Purdy, MVP, Purdy.
Right.
Look, the dude started 19 games in his career.
How do you think the 49er fans are feeling this morning? Right?
Right.
Best, maybe one of the best teams in the NFL, if not the best.
I thought they were going into last night.
I knew the
starting
Ravens were going to win
QB
that
just
game.
threw 4 picks.
They just had chip on. He was the first quarterback all season long to throw 3 interceptions in the first half. First quarterback in all the games all year long in the NFL. First quarterback to throw 3 picks in the first half.
But what we're talking about now, so when you say what quarterback do you trust, I don't trust a single quarterback in the NFL right now. Because it's like, let's take Patrick Mahomes with both arms tied behind his back and then put him up against a bunch of quarterbacks that aren't as good as him but have talent all around him. And what do you like? And so, like, we are so conditioned by the last 20 years to think it's the Hall of Fame quarterback that ends up winning in the postseason. Because that's what it's been. It's been Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees. Those guys win the Super Bowls.
Except when the awesome defense steps up. And I kind of feel like this year is one of those years.
And,
like, that Baltimore Ravens defense is awesome.
Yeah. And also because, like, who are the other Hall of Fame quarterbacks? There aren't other quarterbacks in this league right now where you go, well, that's a Super Bowl winner. Matt Stafford. So you look around and you go, okay, there's one Hall of Fame quarterback that's the guy that wins it every time, and his offense is letting him down unlike it's ever happened to him in his entire career. So, yeah, you still got Mahomes, but I mean,
But I think that's why as frustrated as most of us are, as frustrated as Chiefs fans are, there's still hope.
Right.
Because in the AFC right now, if this was any other year with Josh Allen or Joe Burrow playing really well, and I think everybody would be like, oh, we have no chance.
Right.
Season's over.
Right.
The season's not over because there's nobody there.
No. But I also think it's time for us to stop kidding ourselves that they're just going to sort all this stuff out at some point this year.
No.
Doesn't mean they like Mahomes said it. Hey, I believe we can still do what we want to do. I won't say they can't. I'm not doing that with Mahomes and Reid. But
it doesn't feel real likely, but I'm not going to bet against those two guys.
It doesn't look likely right now. We've got a whole show coming up. Joe Valerio, Mark Borichter, Jeff Chania, straight ahead on Sports Radio 810 WHB.